So it's very good. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here today, because it's not just a day that we are saying goodbye. It's a day that we really are saying thank you to a couple who have meant so much for Kenyans in the diaspora, especially for me, who have grown up in the United Kingdom, grown up because I came as a young lady. Now I'm a mother of two. And it's really been good to see people who are guiding me to be the woman I've become today. So first and foremost, I would like to thank you so much. But to get started, would like to hear a little bit about your love story. So Mr. Shiundus, a little bit about your love story, because where did you get this girl from? Where have you come from? A little bit of love story.
Well, first of all, since it is the first opportunity for me to speak, I would like to thank all of you for being here. Rose and I are very touched, because if we came for this function and didn't find anybody in the room, it will not be a function. We know that for you to be here, you have left other duties, and it's a commitment, and we don't take it for granted. And I would like to say thank you, and could you just give a round of applause for yourselves? I'm talking about Rose. You've all said how generous she is. Now, what you don't know, that when I first met her, she wanted me to take her cousin. So she introduced me to her cousin, and even met her mother to go and make sure that every time I went, they called her cousin. So that is how generous she is. But then, later on, I told her it's not the cousin I wanted. It was her. She was 15 that time. And I was 13. So it's not that I was, anyway. So we come a long way. So before we got married, we had known each other for about 10 years before we got married. So we go a very long way. We've now been married for 37 years.
Wow. Don't fight on stage. 37, 36, how many are they?
35. I'm better in maths anyway. So it's been a pleasure. We've been in this country now for 22 and a half years since we moved here. And we also wish to thank the community, that all the Kenyans in the diaspora that have touched our lives. Because in the same way that we may have touched other people's lives, you have also touched our lives. Face of Kenya, for example, if I remember well, the very first Face of Kenya was in this hotel, isn't it?
Yes.
The very, very first Face of Kenya was actually in this room.
Yes.
That is almost, I don't know.
7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago. So we come a long way. And for Rose, she's not only my wife, but she's my friend. We joke, we joke a lot. And a conversation between me and her, one time we were, cracking some jokes with some colleagues in the office, and one of my colleagues is a Nigerian. He came and said, "I cannot crack with my wife the jokes you crack with your wife. But my wife is very serious. I cannot crack those jokes." So I say, if you haven't been doing it, don't start. With us, we started from day one. And that is how, when you hear her saying that she might, when I retire, now I've retired. So we are going into the second phase.
Thank you.
So I'll let her answer that.
Thank you very much. Rose, I think as a woman, what I would want you to tell me is, we've seen Mr. Shiundus all over globally, like 3 times a week he's flying somewhere. Most of us can't handle our men to go to work without looking at the phone. when are you home? You're meant to be here 10 minutes ago. How have you managed his schedule as a woman and his absence when he's working?
Wow, that is a difficult one, but it has to be managed, and we've managed. I think when you get married because you choose someone. The relationship grows. The relationship can grow in terms of trust, or it can grow in terms of not trusting. So if it grows in terms of trust, then you have to keep your faith in the trust and nothing else. Because if you don't trust, you will not manage. And I think sometimes it is never easy. When we were in Kenya, it was very easy because you almost know what is happening tomorrow. And when we moved here, the challenges here were difficult. And to be with the children and with the husband who is always in and out. I remember I had run my driving test in Kenya, and for 2 years I'd never driven a car. And then I come here, and all of a sudden there's picking to be done, picking of children, and then you start realizing you have to take a role. And that is the role you concentrate on in terms of, are you going to be looking after the children, or are you going to be wondering what your husband is doing? And I think as mothers, our role is really focusing on our children. It's important. We do need to focus on our men, but our first role is to focus on the children. All the husband needs to do is to show the support and appreciation. Once you show the appreciation, I am happy. I will carry on. I will move on. But I think if there's no appreciation, you tend to lag behind a bit. So it's all about trust, appreciation. Then you move on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And obviously, now we're going to talk about your community engagement because you've been very busy in the community. IMO was not, your job there was not Kenyan, but we could not miss you guys in any of the Kenyan gathering. Why did you find it very easy for you to actually just get there and do community activities? What really drove you to get into Kenyan activities? And clubs as well, because you joined a lot of clubs in the process.
Well, for me, from where I come from, I've always been engaged in community work and other activities. And also, I've always believed that if you have anything to give, you give. Because the only love you get back is the love you give. So the more love you can give, the better it is. But there's no better way of giving love than when you get engaged in in community work. Even when I came here, I joined Kenya Society. At the time when people felt Kenya Society was full of wazungus. So whenever I told people to come to Kenya, say, hiyo ni club ya wazungu. I said, okay, if it is ya wazungu, unless you people come and join in, then the numbers can, you can get more Kenyans joining. But if you just say in Yawazungu, then it will remain Yawazungu. And last Thursday, I think I was at the Kenya Society community meeting with my other half, my other one there. And I looked around, and there were only 2 Wazungus in the room. If you remember, there were only 2 Wazungus in the room. When I focus back 20 years ago, in quite a number of meetings, I used to be the only Mweuzi. The rest were Wazungus. I convinced Sam to come in, and Sam joined. I got him to come to the committee, so we were 2. And then Sam was looking around and said, but this is in club ya wazungu. I said, yes, but we need to get more. You can only influence change from within.
Yes.
If you are not there, then you cannot influence change. So Elizabeth will tell you that at the last meeting, they were now saying that this society now belongs to the youth. You know, even the Wazungus who were there were saying, we are now too old. We need now to hand over this society to the youth. But that was the kind of change that I wanted to see. You know, let's have more Kenyans, you know, in that. Now, at least, you know, I was supposed to be the chairman, you know, this last year. But because I knew I might be going back to Kenya, I convinced Patrick O to remain for, you know, for another year. Now, the challenge is that, you know, we are looking for the, you know, for the chair. So I'm hoping that the next chair of Kenya society will be, you know, will be a Kenyan.
That's true.
A Kenyan.
Yes.
Okay, I've also been, for example, Apostleship of the Sea, worldwide is known as Stella Maris. They look after seafarers. When the seafarers go to the, you know, to various ports, they need welfare. So even when I was in Mombasa, we used to have the Mission to Seafarers. Mission to Seafarers is Anglican. Stella Maris is Catholic. But they have the same mission. So in Mombasa, we had Mission to Seafarers. So I used to volunteer to go and help them. You know, when I worked for the shipyard, whenever they had something to do, I used to make sure we do it free of charge to them. You know, so even when I came here, I said, fine, I'll join the Apostleship of the Sea, and I served as a trustee for 9 years.
What are the benefits of such clubs for Kenyans here who might be willing to join such a club?
Yeah, the thing is, when you join a club, you don't join for the benefits, but you join rather for what can you offer. If you join for what you can offer, is finding out what does this club do, what does this community do, and what is it that I can help. But if you go to say, what is it that I can benefit from it, then, you know, for example, Musa, in 2007, we decided to establish a Beingo community network, which was meant to help the Luyas in the diaspora, not only in UK, but all over the world. And, you know, Musa was the first chairman, and I was the second, you know, chairman. But then we realized that our vision for what we wanted for the community was different from what the members wanted. The members wanted to say, what can they benefit from it? Can we have a party? Every year have a party, food to eat, to drink, to dance. But we are trying to say, how can you empower ourselves in the diaspora so that even if one of us dies, we are not raising money. We are empowered to see that the body can go home. But our vision was different, and because of that, it didn't take long. Because my vision was, what can we give to the community?
Yes, asking yourself, what can you give to the community, not what you can get. And I think a lot of us, especially the Kenyans, that's where we need to do a lot more. And Rose, tell us. So, Rose, how was that going to school when Victor has already finished his university?
I think at any stage in life, you can catch up. To me, I think it was like a catch-up. And at any stage, when the time is right, you should try and catch up. I remember when I was in Kenya, I had hoped that I could go to university. And I remember missing 1 point and not getting a place. So it was always my sort of mission and intention that one day I should also be able to go and study at the university. In fact, I remember a friend of mine, she had a really big job to carry on her shoulders for a very long time, because I said to her, if anything happens to me, Lucy, you must say there's one thing that she didn't accomplish. She didn't go to university. So when she heard that I had already gone to university and graduated, she was so relieved because she thought now she doesn't need to say that during my funeral or anything like that. So opportunities come, and this country presents a lot of opportunities, and we just need to encourage each other that when the opportunity is right, grab it. My better half, let me say better half so that he'll be good to me tomorrow. We had to make a choice who is going to be at home and who is going to be moving up and down. So I decided I was going to be at home. And in this country, the challenges that face us as parents is with our children. And they're not easy. But sometimes, however much you want to be there for your child, you cannot be there for your child because you need to put food on the table. You need a roof over your head. So both man and woman have got to work to be able to do that. So sometimes it's not that we parents fail because we are not going to be able to do what the children deserve for us to do, but it's the challenges that we have. So my challenge was, let me finish with the children a bit, and then I can bring myself to what I wanted to be. So I was helped. I was given a very good helping hand by this man. That's why he's supposed to be getting rewards in the end. So, and I engaged into part-time education because that was the only easier way for me. He would come home and I would go to college. And I just want to give a challenge to people: determination. You've got to be determined if you want to succeed. We started college part-time, 35 students. Part-time. Took 6 years because it was part-time. And I was doing 2 majors. I was doing law and I was doing sociology. And we finished 9 of us. So it's all about when is the right time, can you do it, do you have the support? And if you have the support, try.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, because we would like to dance, we'd like to get to that moment whereby people are networking, people are relating. What would be your message to the diaspora as you plan to retire to Kenya? And people are asking, they were asking me, what are they going to do in Kenya? And I said, maybe farming in Mumias, maybe shipping, maybe fishing, just a simple one, message to the diaspora, and where do we find you in Kenya?
First of all, we are retiring to Mumias. We have a home in Mumias, and when we go there, we feel peaceful. Even if you don't just get out of the compound, you just feel peaceful, coming out and being with the villagers and so forth. So that's the kind of life we want. But on the other hand, we are not completely relocating, here from here where you park everything and put on the lorry and lock the door and so forth. We shall still keep our home here because our children have grown up here. So they know they've spent more time here than they've spent in Kenya. So they know our home here as their home. So we will keep our home here so that if the children want to come back for a holiday, or even us, if it is Easter and we feel let's go and have Easter, in the UK, we take a plane and come so that we have the best of both worlds. When the only time you won't see us here is winter. Yeah. But on the other hand, the president has appointed me to be the chairman of Kenya National Shipping Line. It's not a full-time job because I cannot retire and then go to another full-time job. I want to retire to relax and spend more time with my Jaber. But then being a chair of a parastatal in Kenya is not full-time, but if you are required to chair a board meeting. So a lot of friends were asking me, are you going to stay in Mombasa or are you going to stay in Nairobi? Because the headquarters of Kenya National Shipping Line is Mombasa. I told them, no, I'm going to stay in Mumias. And when I'm required to chair a board meeting, Mumias to Kisumu is 1 hour. Kisumu to Nairobi by flight is 35 minutes. And true, one time a friend dropped me from Westland, dropped me at the airport in Nairobi, and I took a flight to Kisumu and then drove to my home in Mumias. When I got to my home, it was in the evening. I called my friend, and he was still driving back. He was still on Mombasa Road between the airport and Westland. You know how the traffic in Nairobi is. And, true to it, he dropped me at the airport, and I arrived in Mumias, in my home, when he was still driving back. So with the traffic in Nairobi, it's true, you can live anywhere if there is good connection and you still go. So if you are looking for us, find us in Mumias, not Nairobi.
Oh, wow.
Your message for the diaspora?
I think we need to empower the young children that we have or we come across. I think that's important. It's important they might not really have a lot of affiliation with our country back, but always take them around there once in a while when they're growing up. You don't have to take them to Gishagi, but you can take them to Mombasa. You can take them to some of these other places so they can sightsee and see the beauty of Kenya, because Kenya is beautiful. And then also empower them and tell them it's a global market. When they get those good qualifications, if they're working very hard, they have to work very hard, because when you are here, you know how many of young people are coming from Kenya to get good qualifications and education here. So if a child has to compete, they also have to compete at a very high level. And they always have a better stand in terms of their outlook. When they go for an interview, their outlook to things will be much, much more open than probably the other side. Even though a Kenyan student once told us that, told my son, that when there's a solution, you give me one solution, the Kenyan guy will give you 5. 5 solutions. You from here, you're just having one solution. Them, they're having 5 solutions. It's because of how things are on the other side. But let's encourage our young people. Let's encourage them and say to them, prepare yourself for a global market. Prepare yourself to be employed anywhere. Dubai, anywhere, compete. Because they always say, you teachers are always, in Kenya, they always tell you compete, compete, compete. Here it is like, no, just do what you can. Tell them to compete as much as they can. And for you parents, be there for your children. And when there's a problem, talk to other parents. Because there are always issues that will affect you and you think you're the only one, but it's not always like that. I have a son, I'm very proud of him right now. He's majored in 2 double masters with merits. And this is a child that I was told, we were actually told, we should not even stress him to a C grade. We should not even stress him to a C grade. So sometimes what will be said at school might not really be what is that child. So try and see as a parent, what is working well for this child, and be there to monitor some of these things, because it's a tough world out here for the children. I'm a social worker, and the peer pressure is tough. So be there for the children if you can.
Well, thank you very much. Now, as for me, I would like to just say thank you very much. You are community champions in my eyes, face of Kenya Pillars, and you have really mentored me. You might not realize there's a time I felt like giving up, and I called Rose Shiundus, and she told me, Janet, there's never a word like I can't in your vocabulary. Go out there, get doing. And sometimes it's the community that you serve are the people who are really making you go down, and you need somebody around to pull your hands up and tell you, you can do this. So for me, I would like to say thank you very much. When you go to Kenya, make sure that your work doesn't stop here. That the bigger work you've got to do in Kenya is young people are waiting for you. So give it up again for the Shiundus. Now,